Jonas' hail was used to quiet nights. His small workshop stood at the edge of a dusty town on a lonely planet, far from busy trade routes. Most nights, the only sounds were old machines cooling down and his baby daughter crying for attention. Since the death of his wife, Jonas had lived in a strange mix of silence and struggle. He worked all day fixing engines, and at night he tried to calm little Mira, who never slept well. That night, the wind outside was cold, and Mira cried harder than usual. Jonas walked back and forth, holding her close, whispering softly, trying to calm her tiny, shaking body. He was tired, more tired than he wanted to admit. His tools were still lying everywhere from the day's work, but he had no energy left to clean them. Just when he finally got Myra's crying down to soft whimpers, he heard a knock at the door. It was not a normal knock. It was loud, strong, and firm. Jonas froze. It was midnight. No one in town ever visited at that hour. The knock came again. Mira started crying all over again. Jonas sighed and moved the door, holding her tight. He opened it only a little at first, careful and unsure. But when he saw who stood outside, he pulled the door open wider in pure shock. A woman stood there, except she was not fully human. Her skin was covered in smooth, dark red scales. Her hair was like long, sharp strands of metal. Her eyes glowed softly like embers. A long cloak wrapped around her tall body, but he could see powerful shoulders and folded wings behind her. She was a dragon woman, a Draconis. He had only heard stories of their kind. She lowered her head slightly in a polite gesture. Her voice was deep but calm. "I seek work," she said. "Please, I mean no harm." Jonas was too stunned to answer right away. Mira wailed at the sound of the strange voice, and Jonas tried to bounce her gently to calm her. The dragon woman watched the baby with curiosity, her glowing eyes softening a little. "My name is Kalara," she said quietly. "I traveled far. I need shelter. I can work. I can fix machines." Jonas finally found his voice. "Machines?" he repeated. "You know machines?" Kalara nodded. "Yes, I can pay for food or a place to stay by working." Jonas didn't know what to do. Letting a Draconis into his workshop felt dangerous. He had heard they were strong, sharp, and sometimes unpredictable. But he also saw something else. She looked exhausted. Dust covered her cloak, and her wings twitched weakly as if she had flown for too long without rest. Her eyes, though glowing, looked tired and worried. Mira suddenly reached out with a tiny hand, as if she wanted to touch the glowing scales. Kalara blinked in surprise. Jonas swallowed hard. He needed help in the workshop. He needed more hands, more skills. And he could not ignore the fact that she seemed desperate but not dangerous. "You can come in," he said at last. "But only for the night. We can talk more tomorrow." Kalara bowed her head again. "Thank you," she said, her voice softer now. When she stepped inside, the room felt smaller. Her wings folded close, and she moved carefully so she wouldn't knock anything over. Jonas noticed a slight limp in her steps, as if she was trying to hide an injury. Mira stopped crying. Jonas stared in disbelief. Mira only slept well in rare, magical moments, but suddenly she was calm in his arms. She stared up at Kalara with sleepy eyes, listening to the low rumble in Kalara's chest as the dragon woman breathed. Kalara looked embarrassed. "Draconis sounds often calm hatchlings," she said. "Maybe humans, too." Jonas didn't know whether to laugh or be confused. "If you can keep her calm," he said, "that alone might be worth hiring you." Kalara gave a small smile, barely visible, but real. Jonas cleared a space on a bench for her to sit. "You can rest here tonight," he said. "We will talk about work in the morning. But if you cause trouble—" "I won't," she said quickly. "I only want peace. I only want a chance to live without running." Jonas frowned. "Running from what?" Kalara shook her head. "I will explain later. Not tonight." Jonas didn't push. He placed Mira in her small cradle and watched as the baby slowly drifted to sleep, soothed by Kalara's gentle breathing hum. The workshop felt different now. Warmer. Somehow. Jonas sat down across from Kalara. He still didn't trust her fully, but he sensed honesty in her tired posture. She looked like someone who had lost something important, just like him. Outside, the wind blew softly. Inside, Mira slept soundly for the first time in many nights. And Jonas, without fully understanding why, felt that his quiet, lonely life had just changed forever. Jonas woke early the next morning to the sound of metal tools moving softly in the workshop. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming, because no one ever worked in his shop except him. But when he sat up and rubbed his eyes, he remembered the midnight visitor, Kalara. She was already awake, standing beside the old engine he had been struggling with for 2 days. Her wings were folded neatly against her back, and her long fingers moved with surprising gentleness over the metal surfaces. She studied the engine like someone reading a familiar book. Jonas picked up Mira, who was stretching and yawning, far calmer than she had been in weeks. He walked toward Kalara slowly. "You start working even before sunrise?" he asked. Kalara turned her head slightly. "I cannot sleep long," she said. "Dracari rest lightly when they are in a new place. And your machines, they are interesting." Jonas let out a small breath. "You fixed something already?" Kalara stepped aside, showing him a small piece on the engine. "This part was installed backward," she explained. "Whoever worked on it before did not understand the pressure lines. I corrected it." Jonas checked it himself. She was right. He had missed it. He had been too tired, too distracted with the baby, and too alone in the work. "You're good," he said quietly. Kalara lowered her head again, but this time it felt more like humility, not fear. "I learned mechanics in my clan," she said, "before everything changed." Jonas didn't ask what everything meant. Not yet. He handed Mira a tiny tool to play with and watched Kalara work for a moment. She moved like someone who had repaired machines her entire life. And with each movement, she reminded him of the workers he used to have before the recession hit the planet. He had lost both business and people back then. Now, he was surprised to feel a spark of hope. After an hour, Kalara suddenly paused. Her hand shook slightly. Jonas noticed. She tried to hide it, but he saw the wince. "You're hurt," he said. Kalara froze. Her wings stiffened as if she expected a threat. "It is nothing," she said. "Just a small wound." Jonas stepped closer. "Let me see." She hesitated, but slowly pulled back her cloak. On her side, between two scales, was a deep cut, old but not healed properly. The scales around it were duller, dimmer. "Kalara, this is not small," Jonas said softly. "How long have you had this?" "A few weeks," she admitted. "I treated it myself. I did not have time for proper healing." Jonas frowned. "Were you running from someone?" Kalara's eyes shifted away. She didn't answer, but the silence was enough. Jonas went to the cabinet and took out a first aid kit. "Sit down," he said. "I can help." Kalara blinked, surprised. "You do not have to. I will not be here long." "Sit," Jonas repeated, in a tone that was gentle but firm. She finally sat, her wings relaxing slightly. Jonas carefully cleaned the wound. She did not flinch, but he could see how tense she was. "You still haven't told me why you came here," he said quietly. Kalara watched Mira, who was babbling to a wrench on the floor. Only then did she speak. "My clan was attacked," she said slowly. "A group of hunters wanted our technology. They chased us for weeks. Many fell. I escaped with nothing but what I carried." Jonas listened without interrupting. "I traveled from planet to planet," she continued, "hiding, working for scraps, trying to stay alive. I came here because this place is far from trade routes. I thought maybe no one would find me here." Her voice softened. "But if you want me to leave, I will leave after the wound heals." Jonas paused his work and looked at her carefully. She was tired, scared, and alone. He understood that feeling far too well. "You helped in my shop already," he said. "You didn't ask for anything. And Mira seems to like you." Kalara looked confused. "You trust me?" Jonas shrugged slightly. "I don't trust easily. But I can see you're not here to hurt anyone." Kalara stared at him for a long moment. Then her shoulders relaxed, as if someone had lifted a heavy weight off her. "Thank you," she whispered. The rest of the day passed quietly. Kalara worked beside Jonas, repairing machines with sharp focus. Jonas handled the customers and Mira, who kept trying to grab Kalara's glowing scales. Each time, Kalara smiled a little more. At sunset, Jonas brewed tea while Kalara sat with Mira on her lap, making soft humming noises that kept the baby calm. "You know," Jonas said, watching them, "I could use someone in the workshop if you want to stay. Not for charity. A real job." Kalara looked surprised again. She seemed unsure how to respond. "I would like that," she said finally. "I would like to work. I would like a place where I don't have to run." Jonas nodded. "Then stay." Kalara placed a hand gently on Myra's small foot as the baby yawned. For the first time since arriving, Kalara looked peaceful. And Jonas felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't alone anymore. For 2 peaceful weeks, Kalara worked in Jonas's small workshop as if she had always belonged there. Customers started returning because repairs were faster and cleaner. Machines that Jonas struggled with for days took Kalara only hours. Even Mira seemed calmer, always reaching for Kalara's warm scales or her soft humming voice. Life felt normal again, quiet, simple, almost safe. But safety never lasts long when someone is running. One afternoon, Jonas was outside fixing a customer's hoverbike while Mira sat in her little chair nearby, playing with an old gear. Kalara worked inside the workshop, sorting tools and quietly humming a song from her homeland. The sky was calm. The road was empty. Then the ground vibrated. Jonas looked up sharply. This wasn't the rumble of a passing cargo truck. It was deeper, heavier, like something landing. Kalara stepped out of the workshop, her wings flaring slightly. Her eyes narrowed. "That sound," she murmured. "It's not local." Jonas wiped his hands on a cloth. "What is it?" Kalara didn't answer right away. She stared toward the forest line, at the edge of the small town. Birds scattered into the sky. Leaves shook. Then, through the shadows of the trees, shapes appeared. 3 dark, heavy figures in armor, moving with slow but steady steps. Kalara's breath caught. "No!" Jonas felt his heart drop. "Who are they?" "They are hunters," she whispered. "They tracked me." The word hunters made Jonas instinctively take a small step, so Mira was behind him. "They're after you?" Kalara nodded. "They want my clan's technology. They want everything. They do not stop." The armored figures stepped out of the trees. They were tall, much taller than Jonas, and wore black suits with glowing red lines. Their helmets had no faces, only sharp visors like the eyes of a predator. Each carried a long gun shaped like a spear. One raised a speaker on his wrist. "Kalara of the Draconis," a cold voice boomed. "Surrender peacefully. Your escape ends now." Kalara's wings tightened close to her body. "They won't leave until they take me." Jonas felt anger rise in his chest. She had worked hard. She had helped him. She had cared for his daughter. And now strangers came to drag her away like an animal? "Stay behind me," he said. Kalara shook her head. "No, they will hurt you if you stand in the way." Jonas didn't move. "You work in my shop. You help my kids sleep. I'm not letting someone march in and take you." Kalara stared at him, shocked, touched, confused. No one had stood for her before, not since her clan. The hunters advanced, weapons humming with energy. Jonas grabbed his old metal wrench. It wasn't much, but it was something. He stood in front of Kalara and Mira, ready to defend them. The leader raised his weapon. "Do not resist. Human, this is not your fight." Jonas glared. "She's under my roof. That makes it my fight." For a moment, there was silence. Then everything happened at once. The hunters took a step forward. Kalara's instinct exploded. Her eyes turned fierce, and she pushed Jonas back. "Get Mira inside." Before Jonas could argue, she jumped forward, wings snapping open with a loud crack. The air burst around her as she moved faster than Jonas had ever seen. The hunters fired, blue beams of energy slicing through the air, but Kalara dodged, sliding across the dirt with smooth, sharp movements. She grabbed a fallen metal bar and used it like a weapon, spinning and striking one hunter in the chest. The armored suit sparked. Jonas ran into the workshop, grabbed Mira, and ducked behind the counter. He peered through the window, heart pounding. Kalara fought hard, but she was still injured, still tired. The hunters were strong, armored, and trained. One caught her wing with a shock net. She cried out and dropped to one knee. "No!" Jonas shouted, unable to stay hidden. He ran outside again, holding Mira tight. The leader turned toward him. "Human, do not interfere." Jonas stepped forward anyway. "Kalara, get up." His voice cut through the pain. Kalara looked at him, her eyes filled with something fierce, something alive. She pushed against the net with a growl, snapping the energy wires with sudden strength. She launched herself at the nearest hunter, knocking him to the ground. She tore off his helmet and slammed him with her tail, sending him rolling. The other two retreated a step, surprised. The leader lifted his weapon again. "We will return," he warned. "And next time, human, we will not be patient." With a sharp humming noise, the three hunters activated small jump devices on their backs. A burst of light enveloped them, and in seconds they vanished into the sky. Silence fell. Kalara collapsed to one knee, breathing heavily. Jonas rushed to her, still holding Mira close. "Are you all right?" he asked, voice shaking. Kalara looked up at him, wings trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I brought danger to your home." Jonas shook his head. "You brought life back into it." Kalara stared at him, stunned. Then she said the word she feared most. "They will return. And next time, they will not stop until they take me." Jonas looked at his workshop, at his daughter, at Kalara. Then he made a decision. "Then we won't let them," he said. Kalara blinked. "We?" Jonas nodded firmly. "You're not facing this alone." And for the first time since her clan fell, Kalara felt something stronger than fear. Hope. The hunters did not return that night, but Kalara could feel them in the distance. She sensed their scanners searching the fields, their ships circling above the clouds where human eyes could not see. Jonas stayed awake beside her, while Mira slept in her small crib, unaware of the danger growing outside. Jonas worked on something at his desk. Tools clicked softly. Metal pieces tapped together. Kalara watched him, confused but curious. "You should sleep," she said quietly. "And you should rest your wing," he replied without looking up. She gave a small smile. His stubbornness always surprised her. "What are you building?" she asked. "A chance," Jonas said. "Maybe a small one, but a chance." Kalara leaned closer. She saw wires, battery packs, and an old mine device that used to break rocks underground. Jonas had changed it, twisted it, rebuilt it into something different. "You made a pulse emitter," she whispered in shock. "Humans don't build these." Jonas shrugged. "I fix machines. I understand how energy behaves. I just needed someone to show me it was possible." Kalara felt warmth in her chest. She had inspired him without meaning to. By the time dawn neared, a faint glow touched the sky. The workshop was quiet. Mira slept peacefully. Jonas sat with a mix of fear and determination on his face. And Kalara felt it then, a new vibration in the air. "They're coming," she said. Jonas stood and grabbed the pulse emitter. "Then let's be ready." Outside, the morning was cold and the grass shimmered with dew. Jonas placed Mira safely in the hidden storm cellar behind the workshop and locked it. Kalara watched with worry. "She will be safe," Jonas said, "no matter what happens." Kalara nodded. She stood tall, her wings open even though one still ached. Jonas stood beside her, holding the strange machine he had built. A deep hum rolled through the air. A black ship slid out of the clouds like a shadow. It landed in the field behind the workshop, flattening the grass with its engines. Its doors opened with a harsh hiss. 3 hunters stepped out. The leader, larger than before, lowered his visor. "Kalara, human, step aside or be removed." Jonas whispered to her, "Are you ready?" Kalara whispered back, "Are you?" The hunters moved first. Energy beams shot across the field. Kalara jumped forward, her wings creating a burst of wind that knocked dust into the air. Jonas rolled behind an old tractor and aimed the pulse emitter. "Now!" Kalara shouted. Jonas pressed the trigger. A wave of blue energy exploded outward in a wide circle. It hit the hunters' suits, making them spark and flicker. Their weapons shut down at once. The leader staggered. What? How? Kalara charged. She slammed into the first hunter, knocking him into the ground. Jonas ran to the side, using the tractor and other machines as cover. The hunters tried to reboot their suits, but the pulse emitter overloaded their systems again. Kalara fought with everything she had. She was fast, sharp, and furious. Her claws cut the ground as she spun around the second hunter, kicking his legs from under him. The leader grabbed her wing and tried to twist it. She roared in pain. Jonas heard it and darted forward, hitting the leader's suit with a heavy wrench. Sparks flew. The leader turned, surprised. Human, you interfere too much. Jonas glared. Get used to it. The leader swung his arm, knocking Jonas to the ground. The pulse emitter slid across the grass. Kalara saw the danger and moved, but the leader tackled her, pinning her wings beneath him. You are rare, Kalara, he growled. Your kind should not be living as workers in human villages. You belong to us. Kalara pushed back, but his armor was too heavy. Jonas, she cried. Jonas crawled toward the pulse emitter. His ribs ached, and his breathing was sharp, but he pressed the trigger again. A second pulse blasted across the field. The leader's suit overloaded violently, sending him flying backward. Kalara rolled free, coughing but unharmed. Jonas threw the pulse emitter to her. You finish it, he shouted. Kalara caught it, pointed at the remaining hunters, and fired one last energy wave. Their armor shut down completely. They collapsed to their knees, helpless. The battle grew silent. Kalara stood over them, wings wide, breathing hard. Jonas limped beside her. The hunters looked up at her with something new, fear. Kalara spoke in a steady voice. Leave this planet. If you return, I will not show mercy again. The leader struggled but managed to stand. He lowered his head in defeat. This is not over, he said. But not today. The hunters retreated into their ship. The engines roared, and the vehicle shot into the sky, disappearing through the clouds. Jonas fell to the ground. Exhausted, Kalara ran to him and lifted him gently. You fought for me, she whispered. Jonas smiled weakly. We fought for each other. And for the first time since sunrise, Kalara let herself breathe. The danger was gone, at least for now. The battle at dawn was over. But something else had started between them. Something strong and unspoken. Something that felt a lot like a new beginning. The morning came slowly, with a soft light touching the broken garage roof and the calm air after a long night of danger. The town was quiet again, but nothing felt the same. The widowed mechanic stood outside his shop, holding his baby close, watching smoke fade from the trees. Beside him stood the dragon woman, tired but strong, her wings folded tight against her back. She looked like someone who had finally found a place to rest, even if she didn't want to say it. The baby reached for her, tiny hands waving, and she looked surprised. No one had ever reached for her like that before. She gave a small smile, almost shy. The mechanic watched her carefully. She had risked her life for him and his child. She had stood beside him even when danger came from the sky. He did not know what their future would be, but he knew he did not want her to leave yet. She said she should go. Her people were still out there somewhere, and they would wonder where she had gone. But her voice was soft and unsure. The mechanic shook his head. He told her she had a place here if she wanted it. She did not need to fly from one place to another anymore. She did not need to hide from anyone. She had earned safety. She had earned trust. She looked at the small town, the garage, the broken road, and the man holding his child. It was not a great city or a strong kingdom, but it felt warm. It felt real. She said she did not know how to live among humans. She had lived her whole life as a fighter, as someone who moved from battle to battle. But the mechanic told her that living here was simple. Fixing things, helping people, taking care of the baby. These were things she could learn slowly. The baby laughed at her again, a small sound that made her scales warm. She reached out and touched his tiny hand gently, almost afraid she might hurt him. But he held her finger, like it belonged to him. She felt something new in her chest, something soft and confusing. Maybe this place could be home. Maybe these two could be her family. Days passed, and she stayed with them. She helped prepare the garage roof, carried heavy tools with ease, and learned how to calm a crying baby. The townspeople looked at her with fear at first, but that changed over time. They saw how she worked quietly, how she never caused trouble, how she protected the mechanic and his child without asking for anything in return. Slowly, the fear turned into respect. Some even started talking to her, asking small questions, learning her name. At night, she sat near the garage, looking up at the stars. She used to look at them with anger, thinking of enemies and battles. Now she looked at them with hope. She wondered if her life had been leading her here all along. She wondered if she was allowed to stay, to breathe, to rest. The mechanic often sat beside her, holding his baby and talking quietly. He told her stories of his wife, of the struggles he faced alone after losing her, of the nights he thought he could never handle life as a single father. He told her that meeting her changed everything, not because she was powerful, but because she cared when she didn't have to. She listened, and slowly she shared her own stories. She spoke of her people, of her training, of the battles she wished she could forget. She spoke of the fear she felt the night she came to his door, not knowing if she would survive. She told him she never expected a human to open the door gently and ask if she was cold. One evening, she held the baby as he slept, his tiny head resting against her scales. She felt safe, and she felt trusted. She told the mechanic that she wanted to stay. Not for a short time, not just until danger passed. She wanted to stay for good. She wanted to build something here. She wanted to help him raise a child. She wanted to protect them both, not out of duty, but out of something warmer. The mechanic looked at her with quiet understanding. He said she was welcome, truly welcome, not as a visitor anymore, but as part of their life. She nodded, and for the first time in many years, she felt her future open wide instead of closing in. The town slowly became her home. The garage became her workplace. The mechanic and the baby became her family. She learned to smile more. She learned to enjoy calm mornings and simple dinners. And each day, the baby reached for her first, as if he already knew she would never leave him. The dragon woman had once lived in a world of fire and fear. Now she lived in a small home filled with warm light and soft laughter. She had found something stronger than any battle. She had found a place where she belonged. And together, the three of them began a new life, one built not from fear, but from trust, healing, and the quiet strength of family.